All right, Hotep family, my name is Brother Ray Ray.
Hotep.
I'd like to welcome everybody to the Brooklyn William Mackey Jr.'s History Club. We meet here twice a month in honor of Professor William Mackey, Louis Ray Rivera, Amos Wilson, Gil Noble, Alhaj Malik El-Shabazz, Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark, Ivan Van Sertima, and all the historians, Hubert Harrison, Professor George Simmons, all the historians that gave up fame and fortune. They gave up good jobs, family, good lives. They could have lived a life of luxury, and they sacrificed a lot because they wanted to bring history to the people. So we want to keep their name alive because these people burned the midnight oil, reading books when there was no computer.
Yes, sir.
And doing all kind of research to bring history to the people. And they didn't really have to do that. It's a big choice. So we meet here in honor of William Mackey and all the great scholars that tried their best to bring history, because we never want to keep their names forgotten. You know, because you don't never know when they will cut YouTube. You never know when they will cut Facebook. Because other people control it. And they could eliminate it at any time they get ready.
Any second.
And they do. And they even starting now to say, like they did before, certain books they don't want. So these people burned the midnight oil and gave up a lot. So we keep their name in honor. You know. So listen, I'm going to bring the camera over to what I call the Amos collection. All of these proceeds from the sale of these books go back to Sabaha in African World Info Systems. We have Blueprint for Black Power, Issues of Manhood in Black and White, The Falsification of African Consciousness, Awakening the Natural Genius of Black Children, Amos Classic, African-Centered Consciousness versus the New World Order. The latest, which is a gem, The Psychology of Self-Hatred and Self-Defeat Toward a Reclamation of the African Mind. This is Amos's last book that Sababa finished. It's a classic. The Developmental Psychology of the Black Child. Amos Wilson's great, Black on Black Violence, the Psychodynamic of Black Self-Annihilation in Service of White Domination. So when you start asking questions on black crime, you will understand. We also have in honor of Louis Ray Rivera, Jazz in Jail, where he used to come down here and speak for hours. Brother Earl Ponder, who left us too soon, revealing the unspeakable Bible verses, the truth about Judaism, Christianity, and Islam in the Holy Trinity. S.K. Damiana Akuhum, Distorted Truths, the Bastardization of African Cosmetology. And this lady, Sister Etta Dixon, wrote a book.
Oh, she's a good
I Am a Wellness Witness. So we have a couple of books here. And Brother Rahim has a few books that, if you ever want to get some information, we have William Monroe Trial.
Yes.
Black Radicals. He also has a variety of books, The Assassination of Fred Hampton. We have these books. So he has a host of literature and books for people to buy in search of information. And that's one thing that this European doesn't want us to get, is information.
That's right.
Now, bring the camera back over here. I met also, we have programs tomorrow at 8 o'clock on Facebook Live. We have Keisha, Tad, and Ashe. Thorough Black Talk at 8 o'clock You tune in to Facebook Live and Keisha Tag, and I say that's a good program with a lot of good information. Also, family, out of Philadelphia, on Blog Talk Radio. That program comes on Saturday at 10:30. You type in Blog Talk, you type in Empress Chi on the search bar, you type down, you scroll down the New Day Resurrection, and you hit that, and the program will come up at 10:30, and they have a call-in number, and you can get in on the conversation. And you can get information coming out of Philadelphia and all over the place. It's a very good program, and sometimes we don't get out of there till 1 o'clock, 1:30. Also, we have African Echoes. That's a Friday study group with Trust Graham out of Newark, New Jersey. That's a very good study group. If you want information and you got my number, you could get in contact with me and I'll give you the link. Also on Saturday at 1 o'clock, we also have out of Asbury Park, Trust Graham and that Asbury Park study group. That's another study group that comes on Saturday. And let me tell you, you think you know something. When you get into that study group, you're going to find out you really don't know that much.
Trust goes deep.
Because it's a very deep study group. Also, on Saturdays and on Wednesdays, out of Baltimore, we have another brother, State of the City, Brother Darren Muhammad. Excellent program. He comes on Saturday at Wednesdays at 7:30, and he also comes on Saturday at 12 o'clock. State of the City, 1590 AM radio. Also, on Tuesdays, on Manhattan Neighborhood Network, you type in Manhattan Neighborhood Network at 5 o'clock, and we have a program hosted by 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement, Noel leader Julian Harper and Brother Mike Graves. That program comes on every Tuesday. It's the hottest program in the country. You won't want to miss it. So these are programs that...
Or YouTube.
And on YouTube. Now, if you want to watch all of the lectures from the Brooklyn William Mackey Jr.'s History Club, you could go on YouTube and type in BK William Mackey Jr.'s History Club, and all the lectures will come up. Dr. Lewis, Mike Graves, all of them. And if you want to see every program of Community Cop, you YouTube Community Cop, and they have, the information is, all the programs that come up. Now, this past Saturday, 2 Saturdays ago, Brother Darren Muhammad had Dr. Scott Whitaker on his program. And he had a book, and the book was called Medicine. And this is how it's spelled. Medicin. Because it's a sin. And I just started reading the book, and let me tell you, I'm going to try to get some more copies, and it's a must. The program is unbelievable. This brother is deep. So I got his book, and this is a piggyback on the persons that are on the lecture tonight. This is a book by Neil Gerbler. If you want to know anything about Hollywood,
that's a deep
how
book.
they set it up,
That's a deep book.
and how these Jews created it, controlled it, and anybody that's getting into the music business and movies and all that, that's today. That's why we get robbed as black entertainers. Get this book, An Empire They Own, by Neil Gerbler, and it will show you. And I'm going to read the title, and I got this book was recommended by Professor William Mackey.
Oh, yes.
How do you spell that?
How the Jews Invented Hollywood. Harry Cohen, William Fox, Carl Lamere, Louis B. Mayer, Jack and Harry Warner, and Adolf Zucker. You will see the humble beginnings of these Jews and how they done created a massive network. So without further ado, our speaker, close that door. Our speaker tonight is one of the co-founding members of 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement. Those who, I want to give yourself a big hand for the people that came out tonight and the people that came out 2 Tuesdays ago. The topic was Hollywood and the criminal justice system. That was part 1. And tonight is going to be Hollywood and the black community, part 2. It will be on YouTube and Facebook. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to give a big hand for our keynote speaker, Brother Mike Graves, co-founder member of 100 Thank you.
Say I am.
I am.
Because we are. I am.
I am.
Because we are. You know, it's very important to acknowledge each other's existence. And no one got here on their own. Consequently, we truly are our brother's keeper. And in doing that, it's a commitment we have to share with each other. Now, the last session, what we did was talk about a host of things around the subject of Hollywood and criminal justice and some other things that just came up during that we addressed. Now, I started out last time with various questions that I raised to you, and I won't belabor the point by going back to them, but I wanted to set a pretext, a sort of a foundation of sorts, with respect to some things that we were trying to get across. So I asked people various things around self-image, perspective, context, so we would have a clearer understanding of those things and how we can better become more aware of what we're looking at. You know, sometimes we see a movie, and no movie is just a movie. Every movie has context and perspective, and there's imagery that there's a storyline in that, and there's something that the writer of the movie itself and the director and all those who are involved producing this is something they're trying to get across. And that's what we need to understand much better. And I'm going to bring some movies, and I'll sort of ask you as a query and really as a muse to get to, I want you to get out of movies that which is, might be unseen. And since I'm cutting off my cell phone, maybe anybody here that's got theirs on, maybe they can do likewise. Unless you're in a dire situation where your phone just has to be on. That aside, could you just silence them now? And we could get through this much better. So I won't ask you about context and self-image and all those things because we went there the last session, and we got a general idea. The theme was to let you know basically what I just said, that no movie is just a movie, and that yes, I am not a robot, and I understand the entertainment aspect of a movie. I understand the entertainment aspect of music and a good time, just having fun. And I know the relaxation one gets out of kicking back, maybe having a meal or a nice snack and enjoying a movie. You know, those light moments or those festive moments, I'm not discounting. But I stand by the premise that a movie is not a movie, just a movie. Now, does anybody know what the amygdala is? Am I saying that right, that part of the brain?
Amygdala.
Amygdala, yeah, that's an even better way of saying it. Amygdala. Does anybody know what that is? I mean, I know that Dr. Lewis, who's in the audience, would probably have to dust off 1,001 books to review something as basic as that. Does anybody have an idea of what the amygdala is? Any idea?
Is this still part of the brain?
Yes, that's correct. It's part of the brain.
Which one?
It's the part of the brain that's in the lower part of your brain, but it has two sides. So it's on the lower left and the lower right. And it's a part of, you're absolutely right, it's a part of the brain. It's the part of the brain that sees images and reacts to images. Because you have to understand that for that relaxation period while you're watching the movie, if you really focused in on that movie, there's not a real distinction between a movie and reality with respect to your brain. So those images are there the same way that image, do you agree, Dr. Lewis?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's no disagreement with, and there's not a fine distinction between something you see at a carnival or a magic show and something you see in a movie and something that you experience in so-called real life. It's the part of the brain that sees and interprets information, and it interprets violence. The amygdala, it interprets threats. It kicks in the fight or flight feeling that we get when we're in danger. We either gonna run or we gonna fight if it senses danger. And that's almost on auto. It's really almost on automatic. You know that if it's a little poodle, the odds are you're not gonna run. I mean, I know you don't want to stomp out the poodle, but you're not gonna run from it either, more than likely. Now, if it's a pit bull or a big cat, you know, lions, tigers, you know, jaguars, that, I'm not talking about a little house cat. Even though you won't do well against a house cat that's fighting, that's really coming to war, you're not gonna do too well even against a cat. Because it's gonna let you know you was in a fight. It's gonna get a scratch in those hands, and those cat-like reflexes are there even in a little cat. But suffice it to say that you're gonna make a determination. That image in your brain, in your amygdala, will let you know whether to run or to fight, or whether you just shook and you can't move at that moment. You know, similar to, like they say, a deer in headlights. It just stops. So that's what it is. So when you're watching a movie or any type of outside stimuli, whether if you know they got things now hooked up to computers where you could put those things on, like a goggle thing with the computer hooked in, and you actually practicing anything from like driving, flying a plane,
Virtual reality stuff.
virtual stuff. Thank you, brother. Appreciate that. Virtual stuff, so you could practice even shooting a weapon or sword fighting. I mean, it's a type of reality. You know, they have those things. And is going through your brain. And for that brief time that you have that virtual stuff on, it's real. You know, have you ever watched a movie that the technical part is so real that you jump, like you think a car is coming at you or a ball or something coming at you so fast, they have it hooked up where you almost jump or move. Certainly, they can do that in a movie. You could just jump inadvertently, or a certain noise can make you jump in the house. And obviously, with the full range of emotions, a movie can make you cry. Men also, not just women. Men sometimes cry when they see a certain movie, especially when women ain't around, or they'll try to act like they got something in their eye, but it can, it can make you cry. Some movies are so sad. Or a movie can make you re-experience something that you've gone through before, whether it's the death of a loved one or something else. Something can create that impact. So I'm just talking about the amygdala, what it can do, and I'm saying that it does not make that fine line between what's real and what's not real at times. So you can, you can really experience something and have you sweating or have you going. I've never seen any of those, the Fast and Furious series. I've never seen any of those movies. But I've been told that it takes you on a trip, when those chase scenes and all that stuff. I've never seen it myself, any of them. And they probably up to about 6, 7, or 8, or 10, but I've never seen them. But I've heard that, sometimes, you got to hold on to your chair watching certain things like that. So I'm just trying to say from the outset that those who make movies understand that. Now, what Ray was talking about is an excellent book, and all of us should have that book, Empire of Its Own. Everybody should have that book. Now, that book defends itself with the cases, and it was written by Jews. So the Jewish community can't say that they were anti-Semitic, or cannot say that those are, what's that term, self-hating Jews, because the actual quotes in the book, they're boasting. This is what we did. This is how we flipped reality. This is how we revised history. This is how we created the images. And if you look closely, you'll see how they have been able to dictate and be determinative in some of our behaviors that we do is based on things we saw, as opposed to our culture and our cultural values. And I'm saying that before I even get into any Hollywood stuff. I didn't understand the full extent of Dr. Ben's contribution while he was with us, and I'm just being honest. I've always knew he was the man. When you know he the man when all you got to say is Dr. Ben. You don't even say his whole name. You could say that here, you could say his name all the way down south, you could say that name out west, you could say that name in Africa. Just say Dr. Ben. And it's literally self-explanatory. I didn't know to what extent his impact was, but over time, I could see, there was a time where you didn't see angst and all that you see now. You didn't see the level of consciousness. As a matter of fact, I dare say that most of them, if not almost everybody here, never used the term Nubian before Dr. Ben gave that to us. Never used it. You never called yourself a newbie before Dr. Ben. That's the impact that one man can do. He was a one-man wrecking crew. Now, and we're blessed to have an assistant of his in the room, in Dr. Lewis, who can tell you 1,000 more things about Dr. Ben than I can. And I wouldn't mind him correcting me if I say something about Dr. Ben that's wrong. But I know that Dr. Ben is the man that gave us back the Nile Valley. You know, I know that for a fact. I'm going to prove it a little later when I get to some things in some movies. But I'm saying for the record that no one, no single person, no single organization. As a matter of fact, if you look collectively in the black community, nobody did more to give the Nile Valley to us than Dr. Ben. No historian, no social scientist, no one. No one from Africa itself, no one. Dr. Ben was the one. And just in case there's somebody out here that doesn't understand the importance of that, before this lecture is over, you'll understand the importance of that, because he did that. And I'm not taking anything away from Dr. Clark, Dr. Sheehan to Diop, and so many others that helped. But I'm just talking about the man that led the charge. And that's important, because we wouldn't be who we are now. You know, they got a lot of people that walk around saying they woke. They ain't aware, but they think they woke. They not aware. Dr. Ben not only changed the language, not only changed people's attire, dressed differently. You can't be around Dr. Ben with sagging pants. Couldn't be around him talking foolish and reciting rap, all that silly stuff that you see out here. Not around no Dr. Ben. Dr. Ben, as a matter of fact, Dr. Ben was so intimidating, nobody wanted to talk about Egypt if Dr. Ben comes in that audience. You almost rather change the subject because you're going to have to be right and exact. That's how he was. And I'm just saying that because I know, and I'm just talking about image. I haven't even gotten into Hollywood. I'm talking about image. Nobody did it better than Dr. Ben with respect to the Nile Valley. Dr. Clark was an army of one. Nobody knew African-American history in America and made it relative and germane to our existence better than Dr. Clark. Best storyteller I ever heard. Best by far. But I'm talking about the Nile Valley. And that's very important because so much is hanging on it. You know, Europeans did such a job with our image, our self-image of Africa. But they couldn't, they even took the Nile Valley until Dr. Ben took it back. They had it. They had it. Dr. Ben took it back. It's kind of hard now to make the movies, but they had showing just a white ancient king. They can still do it. They did it because I'm going to bring up a few movies, and they not old where it was done. But it's increasingly harder, even though the History Channel does this, and they have other places that do things, but Dr. Ben, you know, and I'm just using a term like newbie is just one example. And when he started sharing with us all the various dynasties and what came out of various dynasties, incredible work and precision, and the power of memory to give it to you. What they did at First World, was incredible. First World was the main organization that gave us a look into African history that made us proud of who we were. And that's a constant theme in our history, because I'm going to talk about, you know, certain actors and things that they did. And it was a contribution, it was a stepping stone. Because you can't have Denzel without Sammy and without Sidney and others. You can't have a Wesley Snipes and all these other guys that did certain things unless they were sacrifices from others. You're not going to have that. So I'm just saying Dr. Ben because I just thought about that when Ray was talking about Empire Their Own. Because that's a book of a lot of information and a lot of boasting about how they was able to flip the script. And I'm saying, okay, we had somebody that flipped the script all right. We had somebody that did it, and we don't give him that credit. But all the things we talk about in ancient Kemet, and you say, well, why did Dr. Ben Spencer was African? Did he know African history outside of the Nile Valley? Of course he did. But it was his mission to do that, and I'm saying because Europeans have characterized every other part of Africa as people walking around naked, people walking around with bones in their noses, and all kind of things, and sort of real, what you would consider sort of pagan customs. They were called primitive customs, and there's nothing wrong with being primitive. Primitive only means that it's old, that it's been around a long time. The white man doesn't look at the things he does as primitive, so when they name something primitive art, they're really telling you that this is not theirs, this is not so-called Western civilization. Well, he ain't been around long. You know, when you got black people that's been around anywhere in excess of 6 million years, and he has a 40,000-year run, you know, just so I won't be arguing with anybody, I'm going to give him 10 more. 50,000. Now, you can't give him more than that. That's as long as he's been around. So, of course, everything that he looks at that he had nothing to do with, he factors it in by calling it primitive. So, that's okay. Now, that was just a mild introduction to get into Hollywood. And, I got that from Dr. Clark. Dr. Clark will talk a little while about something. Say, now we're going to open and get to the subject again. So, you can pardon me. That's some of that stuff because I got so much love for Dr. Clark that, you know, he used to do that all and beat her dad. And, you know, he could not do anything with a deathbed confession, where she was able to, you know, articulate what happened to her. So that movie was not just a movie. Now, black people did respond to Birth of a Nation. They tried to make a movie. What's the organization? It was the Lincoln Company. They tried to make a movie to counter that, but it was not successful because, you know, the white power structure was able to kill a movie. It was trying to make a movie with positive images. Birth of a Race, that's the name of the movie. So it was trying to make a movie that would at least show us in a positive light, but the powers that be was able to manipulate and cause it not to be successful. And you have to remember, in a movie, one of the keys to a movie, when you have the product, is distribution. And then you have to have access to the movie houses so it can be shown. So they was able to kill it. So, but at that time, we did later have the Oscar Michels and others, the Burt Williams and others that made movies and was able to do some positive things with that. But we knew that movie, and even Monroe Trotter, that book would show, if you read that book, it'll just show how great William Monroe Trotter was, and he was single-handedly, at his own expense, going from state to state. He actually went from state to state trying to get that movie boycotted. He was setting up boycotts all over the country, William Monroe Trotter. And he actually went to the White House. Now, as you well know, those who know anything about Woodrow Wilson know that he was a white supremacist of the highest order. And he described Birth of a Nation as lightning in a bottle, lightning caught in a bottle. That's how much he loved it. And he said, quite painfully, it's true and accurate. You know, those, images of us, the way we acted, and all we wanted to do was act crazy, act like monkeys, and rape a white woman, And as I said last week, it bears mentioning that a white woman actually threw herself off a mountain, as opposed to being raped by a black man. She, to uphold her honor and dignity, she threw herself over a mountain so that she would not be raped. And then, I obviously in later scenes, you see the Klan on their white horses coming to the rescue and saving the day. So that imagery is important. And William Monroe Trotter, who saw the movie in its entirety, well over 3 hours, probably about 3.5 hours, a silent movie at that time, 1915. It was a cinematic breakthrough of sorts for that time period. The technical aspects of the movie was profound. And even Spike Lee, who's sort of a movie historian of sorts, even he said that it was. He said if you understand the technical genius of Griffin, you could see that he knew what he was doing, and each scene was, powerful on imagery. So if Spike, who knows that well, can say that, then it was a cinematic breakthrough. It was groundbreaking at that time. So I know we covered that last time, but I wanted to just make that point that Birth of a Nation was just that important. Now, and I told you, the Lincoln Company did try, and these were great actors. So many of the actors that you saw in movies in the 30s and 40s came out of that Lincoln Company, and they were a part of the Harlem Renaissance, which lent so much to our cultural development, and were able to fight back a lot of the images that you would see in those early movies with us acting like monkeys and savage wild beasts in the field. You had the Harlem Renaissance, and where it was the Claude McKays and Zora Neale Hurston and so many others. Incredible writers, and Paul Laurence Dunbar, and so many people that did so much, whether it was in writing movies, plays, poetry, you name it, they were on top of their game and did us proud in that regard. Was there a level of arrogancy to some of that? Yeah, but and to this day, you still acknowledge there was a hierarchy that lived for years in what's called Strivers Road. Anybody here know what Strivers Road is? In Harlem? 139th Street, the west side, you know, from 7th Avenue, going west, 139th, 138th, 137th. That's Strivers Road. Dr. Lewis, I guess you can't afford to live on Strivers Road.
Not all
But that's a good area. But so that's, you know, that's sort of, you know, in a sense, that Harlem Renaissance, very important. And then they had the greats, you know, the Cab Callaways and the Fats Wallers and so many others. It's an incredible counterbalance to what Hollywood was doing. But let's look at now. Oscar Micheaux was making movies, Body and Soul, and so many other movies that independent black films, motion pictures were relatively new, but Oscar Micheaux had all-star black cast, Body and Soul, and others, and they were incredible at that time. Now, you might not have seen his short films of 15 minutes, half hour, 45 minutes, but I'm almost certain here that everybody here just about probably saw Cabin in the Sky. Anybody here saw Cabin in the Sky? What about Stormy Weather? Okay, who was the star in both of those movies?
Lena? No?
Lena Horne. Now, they had other incredible people. If you look at that movie, I've never seen to this day. To this day, those two movies that was made in 1943, I've never seen that much talent in a movie. When you see the Nat King Coles and you see Louis Armstrong and Fats Waller,
Nicholas
Duke
Brothers.
Ellington. Oh man, don't even mention the Nicholas Brothers. Oh my goodness. You ever seen cats jump from up and down stairs, go into a split, do things on the knee, do a flip, come backwards, legs come all the way out, and dancing at the same time? That acrobatics and dancing. Yes, Dr.
The
Lewis.
Nicholas Brothers, I've seen them tap dance up a wall.
Upper wall.
Up a wall.
Okay.
Wow.
Tap dance up a wall.
Look, let me tell you something. You ain't seen dancing until you see the Nicholas Brothers. Now, I know all y'all was impressed by Michael Jackson. I know that. Y'all probably like to grab his crouch, but you know. It was funny watching Michael with that high voice grab his crouch, real funny. But, and you always grab it, you know. But if you want to see some real dancing, that guy Slide, the Nicholas Brothers, and even a middle age or more, Bill Bojangles Robinson. Oh my goodness, you know. Now I mentioned him last week and said, and y'all, you were right when I said, why was it important for white people to have him in a few movies with Shirley Temple? Well, they wanted her to be a star, a child star. She was what, 7, 8 years old. And he was probably about 60, 55, 60, and could still step. Incredible moves. Now, the jumping around might have been gone, the acrobatic stuff, but the style and grace was still there, even at that advanced age. So, for them to go up and down stairs, you know, and he had that a-rat-tat-tat, pop, pop, a-rat-tat-tat, and he could do all that stuff with his feet. He would give you a rhythm, and then his feet would carry it out. Well, to put her on the stage with him, as opposed to a grown black woman or a black child, you know, a member of his family, or somebody that he taught, it made them equals. So what they were saying is that this little girl is an equal of your best. She wasn't really dancing. When you understand, I tell you what, if you never seen black folks dance, then she's dancing. She's dancing. But if you ever seen even a big woman like Ethel Waters dance, or even Lena, who wasn't a dancer, but she could dance. She wasn't a dancer, but she could dance. Dorothy Dandridge and others. If you've seen them on the floor, what they could do, and then you see Shirley Temple, you understand, that's just image. They making this little white girl a star and saying that she's good enough to dance with Bojangles. And no white woman, I mean, look, what you call him? What's his name? Fred Astaire? He couldn't dance with Bojangles. And he was their best.
That's right. That's what they said.
You know, he was their best. Fred Astaire, and then the other guy came along after him, what, Gene Kelly? Man, they couldn't even warm up. They couldn't do the things that the Nicholas brothers did. And they got guys who you wouldn't even know their names in movies. And you watch those old black movies, and you see the things that they're doing. The talent, you cannot name a movie that had more talent than those two 1943 movies. I mean, they had the baddest conductor of all time. No one has written more songs and did more for black culture with respect to music than Duke Ellington. And then, when you look at Count Basie.
Oh, he was in them other ones.
Oh, man.
Cabin in the Sky, yeah.
Are you kidding me? Count Basie? Make that piano tall. And Fats Waller?
Yes, he was in there too.
Oh. You know, if I had to say a movie that you know, a contemporary movie, or at least something relatively new, that had that level of talent, I can only think of one movie that had that many people. No, it's not close to those two movies. But a distant third, it would be Soldier Story. It would be Soldier Story. Denzel came in what in that movie? Maybe third or fourth? The talent was so good. Denzel was the top dog. What's the guy's name? Adolph Caesar?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yes, boss, niggas.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. If you see the level of talent in a movie like Soldier Story, and that's what, 1983? 84?
Yeah, something like that.
It's around the middle 80s or close to it. Where Denzel ain't number one, he ain't the top dog. He's good. He was on his way. But the best actor in that movie was Adolph Caesar, the Sarge. And the other guy that was plucking the piano, plucking guitar.
84.
Incredible. 84?
Yeah.
Okay. Soldier Story, incredible. That amount of talent. Really almost an all black cast except one or two white people was in the movie. Yeah, they had a white captain.
It was Robert Townsend, he was in there too.
Robert Townsend was in
He
it.
was in
And the other star, what's the other star's name? The one that died?
Howard Rollins.
Rollins.
Yes, Robert.
Larry
Rollins.
Riley.
He was definitely.
Oh man, a lot of talent.
A lot of time was in there.
Yeah, a lot of talent. Denzel was not the top dog, but he played a major role.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, any Denzel fans out there, he was major in the movie. You know, especially if you see the end, major in it. But and you seen scenes where you could tell in the long run he was something to behold. Denzel, you see it. But Sarge and them other guys, heavyweights, and Rollins, Howard Rollins, Heavyweights. Real good movie. So, but the reason why I'm saying that is because white folks understood the talent that they showed back then in the 30s and 40s. When you see those old clips of Count Basie and Fats Waller, oh my goodness. When you see the talent of the singers. Now, for the record, last time y'all said I didn't mention enough black women. Somebody told me that. Said, man, what happened? What's up with the black female actors? Okay, we're going to talk about some of them. We're going to talk about some of them, and maybe you, in second thought, you shouldn't have gotten me to mention it, but I will. Now, one, Hattie McDaniels. Obviously, she got an Academy Award. I think it was Best Supporting Actress.
Yes.
You know the movie, right?
Gone with the Wind.
Gone with the Wind. It was an epic, a classic movie that featured Clark Gable. Clark Gable was, when you think of slave masters, I guess you have to call him an humanitarian. He's an exception to the rule, I guess. I mean, and I'm not confusing terms when I say humanitarian, because I wouldn't know what to call him, you know, because if you think you own people, there's something wrong with you. You know, just the whole concept of owning people, and that you could pick any woman you wanted and she's yours that night. And anything she produces yours. You know, so, but he was pictured as a real humanitarian, and he also had jungle fever. You know, according to the movie. So he had a thing, and he found out at some point that this Southern Belle was black. And that did not stop him from wanting her. But phenotypically, she looked white. But she was black. And he discovered it, and it was like 3 or 4 other officers in the Civil War. They were all in rank like captains, lieutenants, what have you. They wanted her also. In the long run, he won. And there's a scene in the end where he gets her by giving her the ability to reject her. Now, that's not what slave masters do, obviously. You know, as a matter of fact, it's a rites of passage to be able to take your 15, 16-year-old son and say, son, it's about time for you to be a man. Come on, we're going to take this war. And they're going to go to the slave quarters, and he's going to pick one, and he's going to tell his son, all right, get one, and this is how you do it. And they're going to go somewhere, and they're going to do what they do. That's like commonplace. And but they didn't show the Clark Gable's character doing any of those things, but his affection was reserved just for that Southern Belle that phenotypically looked white. So he ended up with her only because he let her know, you can go. In other words, I don't own you, but I want you. And that's how he was able to win out as a nice guy of sorts. But that's Going with the Wind. It's an epic, and if you get a chance and it moves you, then watch it. Take a watch and see what you see. There's a lot of images in it. But in Hattie McDaniel's part, she was awesome. Now, I don't condone in any way images of a black maid. She was an enslaved African woman who loved the Southern Belle so much, cared for her. They had the kind of relationship where she could actually scold her. You ever seen those types that care for her more than she cares for herself? Mammy. As a matter of fact, that's who she was in the movie. Mammy. And And actually thinking of that, Al Jolson became famous for wearing blackface and singing that song, Mary. That's how he became famous. And as a matter of fact, his career was based on wearing blackface and trying to, do so-called black shuffling and all that other stuff, which he couldn't do. But, and he would do the voodoo, and, try to act, like a black person that don't know what they talk about, And it was all part of his stick. And he became very rich and famous for doing that. Like the original Amos and Andy was white. But this is a radio. This is during the time of radio. Believe it or not, there was a time when there wasn't television. It was, believe it or not. And when they didn't have television and families after dinner would gather around the radio, they actually had, shows, whether it was Batman or, some kind of superhero or Perry Mason. They had Amos and Andy, where two white guys actually were on TV entertaining people by trying to sound black, emulating what they viewed as black culture. So when it actually, with the advent of television, and there came a time to do Amos and Andy, they actually used black people. If you ever seen any Amos and Andys, and it was very successful. They were cut short. The civil rights movement played a part in getting rid of that because the imagery was so bad at times and so depressing that it was actually the NAACP, was the civil rights organization, that petitioned white folks to cut it off, and obviously the people involved in Amos and Andy felt that was wrong because they were losing their jobs. And it did cost them their job. And, one could argue about, well, how black was the NAACP? But they were able to win that battle. And Amos and Andy, actually, it killed the reruns. Let me say it right. It killed the reruns because after the show was over, they was doing the reruns, and some of us might have grown up seeing some of the reruns. But they killed the reruns by similar to the same way that you can't see the Cosby reruns now because of what they accused Cosby of. Because, he was still making money off that, so white folks decided to take it off TV. So, in any event, now I'll tell you something that you might not know. During that time, you can name all of the white actresses in the late 30s and early 40s, and even into the 50s. They would not be caught dead in a picture with Lena Horne. Can you picture that? She was so photogenic. They would not be caught standing, if it was up on a stage accepting an award or presenting. None of them were getting near Dorothy Dandridge because they wanted to keep that image as a sex goddess. That's going to go out the window if you stand next to Dorothy Dandridge. It's gone. White men just, mouths were wide open looking at Dorothy Dandridge. The equal of it now, if there would be an equal, and I doubt she has an equal on par with her in terms of talent to this day, but for lack of knowing better, I'll just say Beyonce. Like I said, I don't know what the example would be.
Halle Berry is the closest thing you got.
Okay, Halle Berry. Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, but in terms of talent, she don't have Dorothy Dandridge's talent.
Acting talent, yeah.
Okay, the acting part. Okay, but all of them back then were triple threats.
Absolutely.
They could dance, sing, act. They could do it all. So that's what I'm saying. You know,
Beyonce.
I'm saying Beyonce because Beyonce has made movies, a lot of movies, and she obviously sings and dances. I mean, the dancing is just sexual gyrations, but I guess you consider that dancing because it's not much else. I mean, I guess she thinks she invented shaking one's hips, as if no black woman ever did that before. But no, y'all like Beyonce, so I'll leave you alone. Y'all can scratch that one from the tape. She's a dancer. She's a great dancer. Am I okay? I'm safe now. Beyonce's a great dancer and a great vocalist and a great actress. I am in Bed-Stuy. Her husband grew up in Bed-Stuy. So she's a great actress, a great singer, and great everything else. And I'm sure she's a great mother. So I'm good with Beyonce again, right? I'm back in? Okay. But, you know, she's no Dorothy Dandridge. She's no Dorothy Dandridge. That I'm going to maintain. That. You know, so if Dorothy Dandridge has an equal that's on par with her today, it's not Beyonce. It's somebody else that we might not know, because when you go and watch plays and you see phenomenal actresses, young actresses, singing, dancing, and doing it all, they're even funny, they can do the comedy part, you know, they're just unheard of at this time. But you know, so I'm sure, because we ain't losing. So there are Dorothy Dandridges out there, I'm sure of that. There's a girl down the block from one of you right now that's singing up a storm in their local church and could do it all, but the opportunities are not there. So, you know, Beyonce is close to being a billionaire. And, you know, the person that you might know that can sing, dance, and do it all, no, they got a regular 9 to 5 at that.
That young girl named Monet, somebody, I can't remember her last name, she's beautiful. She sings and she acts.
Her name is Monet?
Janelle Monáe.
Yes, exactly. She's a beautiful black woman.
Okay.
She sings, and, you know, you sing, I'm sure.
Okay. So, to the YouTube audience or to the people that's in Zoom, Monet, you said, what's up?
Janelle Monáe.
Janelle Monáe. I don't know who that is, but,
You probably sing her.
okay.
She cute.
Okay, she's good? Okay.
Yeah, she's good looking, I mean, talent.
Okay, well, you know, some people, that's all you gotta be is eye candy today.
Well, no, she.
That's all you need. You say she's a good looking, but that's all you need. If you look good, you know, you can learn how to shake your hips. That ain't nothing. You just get on the stage shamelessly dressed. Oh, I've seen her before. She was in that movie with about the space program, wasn't she?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the name of that movie?
I forgot.
Hidden
Hidden Figures.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I've seen her before.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. She was good in that movie. Is she a singer also?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
And a dancer.
And a dancer. Okay. All right. Okay, we cooking with gas. We got somebody that
We gotta tread lightly with
Okay.
that dancer thing.
okay, well, look, if you look at the way people could dance, you know, a long time ago,
Yes.
it's kind of hard to call certain people dancing. but
Absolutely.
you have to go by what you see, you know, and what you could perceive to be a great dancer. Because like I said, if you looked at the play, I remember going to see the play Black and Blue, and I seen Sophisticated Ladies, and I seen a few plays where the dancing was incredible. I mean, real dancing, and real singing, and acting, and all that. And it was just phenomenal, and wow. You know, and when you saw Phyllis Hyman singing some of Duke Ellington's songs, oh my goodness. Yeah, man. You know, incredible. So, and that's the downside to watching great talent. When you watch great talent and you're used to it because it's in our DNA, and now you see somebody else who other people call superstars, and you know, you just see eye candy. It's you know, totally different. And you see brothers, young brothers, and I'm not saying that they're Sammy Davis Jr., but you see some talent on Broadway. And that guy, Odoms, is that his name?
Who?
Odoms, the one who was in Hamilton?
They're all good in Hamilton. They're all good in Hamilton.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
yeah. So if you go see Hamilton, you will see some phenomenal acting and dancing, you know. So, okay, but anyway, let's keep going. Now, okay, I mentioned about Bojangles. Now, Josephine Baker was a great actress and dancer, but kind of on the raunchy side. To a degree that she hit big in Europe. The way she was dancing and with the dress, the costume she would use. European men went crazy over her, and she was a superstar over there and made her money. She didn't hit like that here. So she actually went abroad and did well, and even jazz musicians, great in their own right, always did better in Europe than they did here. I'm not saying they couldn't make a living here, but the venues were limited and the white big bands did much better here, but when they went to Europe or going to Japan and places like that, they were much better received. So the Louis Armstrong and Duke Ellington and all them, you know, Illinois Jacket and so many others, even Coltrane and Miles and all them, they were super when they went abroad, because when they went abroad, their talent was acknowledged, and, as opposed to here, where you had the Pat Boones and the Elvis Presleys and trying to emulate them, and you know, can you imagine Pat Boone trying to sing like Little Richie? You know, Tutti Frutti Old Rudy and Good Golly Miss Molly and all that. I mean, these guys, man, if you saw the impact of a guy like Little Richie, you know, he said he's the one that built what is now called rock and roll, which sells billions and billions. He built it. So, you know, it's just phenomenal, our culture, how it's marketed all over the world. But getting back to Hollywood, because Little Richard was a part of that. When you see Little Richard and Chubby Checker, the Platters, the Mills Brothers and all of them in all these movies in the 50s, those Alan Freed movies and all, you just saw the talent. So the talent from the 40s didn't go anywhere. It was still there in the 50s. And when you see these artists perform, and I'm going to get, like I said, I'm going to get back to why I mentioned Dr. Ben in a little while. It's going to be slightly after the break. I'm going to mention these movies because I want you to understand that a movie is not a movie, so it's not just for your entertainment. Now, you know full well that Professor Griff was knocked out of Public Enemy because of lyrics and statements made. Is that right? If I'm wrong, tell me. It was statements made, and you know, everything from Schindler's List turning into Swindler's List, and things that commentary he made, he was too hot to handle. And we've probably all seen Professor Griff one time or another. He used to be a regular coming to United African Movement. But that only proves that you don't have poetic license. You don't have the license to be creative when it comes to white folks. You can't say something, you know, Michael Jackson got in trouble. I think his lyric in a song was something about, don't Jew me. In other words, don't pull the wool over my eyes and rob me, rip me off. I think that's what he was saying. And he had to take that out of a song that he wrote, Don't Jew Me. And yet, Arnold Schwarzenegger at the same time was making movies where he went into a precinct and killed everybody. I think The Terminator, I think that was the series. Killed everybody. But that's okay, that's permissible, because a white guy can kill other white guys. But the thought of a black man saying something about white people in a song of a type of music that you don't even listen to, rap, well, it becomes a problem based on who it is, you know. And so you get that dynamic, and that's still around now. Rap artists can say bitch hole, F word, F bombs all over the place, MF this and all that, but they can't say nothing about white folks. Matter of fact, white folks tell them, I need 3 MFs in this song, 4 B's, 5 hoes, and that's good.
The N-word, don't forget the N-word.
Oh yeah, that goes without saying. As a matter of fact, the comedian Eddie Griffin, when told he did a concert, then this is during the time where, you know, these constant debates were going on about the N-word. He did a concert that had N-word in the title. You probably saw the show, the special he did. And every joke, every other word in it was nigga. In other words, he had contempt for anybody who would dare take his treasured N-word from him, that he was just saying it like it was going out of style. Now, when I saw the Kings of Comedy, I think only like once or twice. I think only Cedric the Entertainer used the N-word a few times. Steve Harvey didn't use it. I don't think D.L. Hughley did. I think once. I think he said the N-word one time. Because I was surprised, because most of the time he can get through the whole show and not say it. And I think he used it once. And Bernie Mac didn't use the N-word at all. Now, he used a lot of F-bombs, but you know, I mean, you know, it's adult comedy. So, you know, as a matter of fact, he actually ended his skit by telling you why it's okay to use the word MF in the Kings of Comedy, you know, and it was funny, you know, it was funny because he talked just like the average brother on the corner when he said why the word MF is a good word. And he said it's a person, place, and it's a thing. He said it was a noun, and when he explains it, you'll get why it was so funny. Incredible, you know, but I don't really want, why am I talking about comedians? One of y'all wants to mention something. But,
ADD.
what's that?
You got ADD, man.
I guess so. I mean, Howard used to say it funny. Howard used to call it CRS. Y'all will figure that one out before we done.
I know that one.
Somebody said, I know what it is. And Howard said, man, I got CRS, man. I can't remember, you know. Yeah. Well, anyway, like I said, you know, the civil rights movement put some people out of business. You know, you could do the wrong thing for the right reasons, and somewhere in all of that, I understood what they were doing. But now, what you have to remember with the Harlem Renaissance was these artists were the best. And that was a part, you know, and that, like I said, gave a counterbalance to the images we had. Now, who was the first real star in Hollywood? Black. And believe it or not, I know that, you know, that Hattie McDaniels got an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress. She was not a superstar. Who was the first real star that was black in Hollywood? Now, what you call him? Now, Stephen Fetchit obviously made a lot of money. I wouldn't say that he was a superstar, but he made a lot of money because he was in all the movies from Hallelujah and all these other movies that came out. you know, and he made the most money. But who was a superstar? Who was a superstar?
Robeson?
Well, he just said it. Paul Robeson was the first black superstar. Paul Robeson. And I'm not saying that Dorothy Dandridge was on her way, but the first real black superstar in movies was Paul Robeson. You know, everything from, he did Othello, the Emperor, Emperor Jones, and these other movies. And when you hear that man sing, it's so captivating to hear that deep bass voice sing. And a four-letter man at Rutgers University. Okay, I'm 5 more minutes. Okay.
Play sports.
He played every sport.
Oh, man.
He was incredible. Every sport, he led it in, you know. He did it all. Just incredible, and was an incredible scholar. Spoke various languages that he learned along the way. He was what we call a Renaissance man.
Lawyer. Right.
That too.
Top of the class in Columbia Law School.
Yeah, lawyer. I mean, he did it all, and fought hard and ended up sacrificing the latter part of his career for stands for black people.
Yes.
Didn't have to do that. And the reason why you see a person who came up and always did that was Ossie Davis, because he got it from Paul Robeson.
Yes.
Paul Robeson taught him the ropes the same way you see scholars who came behind Dr. Ben or Jonathan Jackson, or whether it's Charles Hamilton Houston, passing the ball to Thurgood Marshall, passing the baton as a legal scholar. You pass the baton, and so you had that dynamic where Ossie Davis and Ruby Dee continued the work of a Paul Robeson. Now, when we come back, I'm gonna firm it all up on certain movies, and these movies has an impact on things we do. And just quickly before we end, I told you before, I'll hold that one. But suffice it to say that these images, when they're in your brain, they taught us, when you look at Stephen Fetchit and you look at Rochester, and y'all know Rochester, who was his
First name?
Eddie Anderson. He was the one. Anybody ever saw the Jack Benny show? Jack Benny show. You remember the funny black guy?
Yeah, boss. Tony Boss. Yeah. Boss.
Him. So talented. If you saw him in other movies, but he was Jack Benny's sidekick. And to tell you the truth, when you look at him, he's so funny. Jack Benny wasn't funny. And when they started the new season, they told Jack Benny, well, we start the new season, we're going to do this without Eddie Anderson. Jack Benny said, no, he stays. Because he understood that he's the show.
Yeah.
That guy's so talented. And by the way, that's pretty good. You had his voice down pat there.
I didn't want to go to California.
Yeah. I mean, that's how he sounded, but he was so funny. And that Jack Benny understood that, and I'm sure that Rochester's money, couldn't compare to Jack Benny's money, but hilarious and brilliant. I mean, if you go all the way back to a Burt Williams, probably he was considered by what's his name? What's the white guy? The short, fat white guy that always wore gloves? What's his name? W.C. Fields. W.C. Fields.
Oh,
W.C. Fields said Burt Williams was the funniest comedian of all time. So you get somebody who made everybody laugh, admit on the side, you know, that look, the funniest guy I've ever seen was a black guy, Burt Williams. And Burt Williams would even put on blackface to kind of like, it's sort of like a double entendre. He was exposing white people for their foolishness by putting on the blackface, and he was already a dark-skinned man already. He was black, but you know, he would put it on to kind of expose them, to make a mockery of them. Now, if you saw, just understand what I'm saying before we break. Anybody saw Pearly Victorious with Ossie Davis? If you listen to the language, Ossie Davis is permitted in humor to talk about white folks like a dog. And it was a successful movie. He made money off that. And he wrote the movie. If you ever get a chance, go see Pearly Victorious. You know, maybe I'll burn it. No, the tape is on, so I can't say I'm gonna burn it. But if somebody else burn it and you celebrate, we'll make some money, you know, for Mackey Group by selling it. But I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna burn it.
Yeah, he was in the play first.
The play,
and then they made it into the movie version.
Yeah, it was a play first,
Yeah.
like most things, and then it became a movie. Incredible.
Yeah.
Ossie Davis their talent was just through the roof. But in any event, I guess we're gonna break now real quick. And when I come back, I'm gonna hit you with some serious things.
Okay, Mike.
Okay, so in this segment, I want to get into some specific movies that was able to establish images, which me and Dr. Lewis was just talking about, images displayed. You know, how they were able to do that. Now, as you well know, when you go back to whether it's the silent movies, motion pictures, or when sound was introduced in the late 20s, around 1927, the images remained the same and became even more persuasive with us as maids, butlers, acting a fool. The biggest stars, obviously, were those who were comedians and had the skill to make white people laugh. And they were paid rather handsomely. You know, Lincoln Perry was one of the highest paid, Stephen Fetchit was one of the highest paid actors, bar none, white or black. So in any event, that image still remains to this day. Now, when you see the movies, what is commonly called the black exploitation movies, there were steps to get there. Like I said, when you look at the contributions of a Sidney Poitier, long before there was a Yaphet Kotto, Sidney Poitier, Harry Belafonte, Sammy Davis, there would be no Denzel, there would be no Wesley Snipes, Samuel Jackson, Michael B. Jordan, if you didn't have the sacrifices of guys like Sammy, who we, a lot of times, we probably don't like things about him, whether it's his married life or the way he comported himself around the Rat Pack, the brunt of some of their jokes. But one thing can't be denied is his talent. One of the most talented individuals of all time, Sammy Davis Jr., triple threat, could do it all. There was literally nothing he couldn't do. And did it so extraordinarily well. Could sing better than Sammy, sing better than Sinatra. What's the other guy? Dean Martin. And all those guys could out sing all of them. Was funny. Dancing is no contest. One of the greatest dancers of all time.
Played instruments too.
Oh yeah, he played instruments. He did trick draws and all kind of things with guns. Could play literally, I'd say at least more than half of the instruments in the band. He could do it all. And dancing, very few people that could even was on par with him as a dancer. And the Nicholas brothers were one of the only ones that could dance with him. And I think they were better, but at dancing. But he was right up there with anybody when it came to dancing. And but he opened a lot of doors. You know, him and Ella Fitzgerald and others that had that partnership with whites and would sing with them and dance with them. They opened up a lot of doors. And like I said, when it comes to people like Dorothy Dandridge, those white superstars, the Marilyn Monroes of the world, and Dorothy Malone, and all of them, the one that was married to Humphrey Bogart, her and all of them, they couldn't get on the stage and refused to stand on the stage near Dorothy Dandridge because it just made them look pale and, you know, milquetoast. It just wasn't a smart thing to do, and they understood that. So they avoided being in the same scene. And if you were in any of those movies with Dorothy Dandridge, she took every scene that she was in.
Still true today.
You know, yeah, there's no doubt. When you look at all her movies, I don't care how big the white stars were, male or female, she took the scene. Similar to the way Denzel just took scenes. No matter what scene he was in, he just took over. I think the only guy ever that I seen take a scene from Denzel was in Devil in the Blue Dress, the little guy that played the guy Mouse.
Yeah,
That guy was probably the only guy I've ever seen in a scene with Denzel, where he actually took some light from Denzel. I forgot his name, but he's a famous actor. You know, very successful, has a very good career. But the guy from Devil in the Blue Dress, he even does a series on TV on cable. I hope that Raji comes up with his name.
I don't know why he's so slow with it, you know everything.
But that guy, the one who played, you seen Devil in the Blue Dress?
yeah.
You know the guy I'm talking about.
The little guy.
He's short guy. He was the one that,
Ocean, he was in Ocean 11.
no, he wasn't in that.
He wasn't in Ocean?
No. But in any event, he's one of the few guys that could take a scene from a superstar like Denzel Washington. Incredible actor. The same way that Denzel was shining, but Adolf Caesar in Soldier Story, nothing short of incredible. But suffice it to say, my point was...
Don Cheadle?
What?
Don Cheadle.
Yeah, Cheadle.
Man,
Yeah.
you ain't saying nothing.
Yeah. He was incredible in Devil in the Blue Dress. Some of those scenes was just incredible when you say, wow. And that scene, for those 15 minutes there, he had Denzel. You know, but that's very rare and far between. You're not going to get anybody that normally can do that, but he pulled it off. And like I said, you know, superstars, it's just like trying to sing and you get on the stage with Ella Fitzgerald. You don't want to do that.
No.
You don't want to get on the stage with Sarah Vaughan and they introduce you as a singer. You don't want to get on the stage and start singing with Sarah Vaughan.
It's like getting on the stage with me saying you're a comedian.
Right. Heaven forbid. So, you know, but in any event, you know, and this is just the power when I mean, what would culture be in America if you took us out of it? You know, I mean,
What would culture be?
you know,
What would
music.
America be?
I mean, just the music alone.
And everything else?
I mean, can you imagine a world where there was no Louis Armstrong and no Duke Ellington and Count Basie? Coltrane,
They can't imagine.
Miles Davis.
That's why they used to go
What
to
would
war.
music be without Little Richard,
Wouldn't be no music.
Billy Eckstine?
Yes.
You know, are you kidding me?
Johnny Hartman.
What's
Oh
the-
man, a smooth Johnny Hartman. Oh my goodness.
Prince? Cool.
I'm talking about real genius. I'm
Like,
not talking about guys
Oh,
with
stop.
Ain't no comment on that.
he's just mad because he light skinned, that's all. He's just calling out dark skinned people.
Duke Ellington. Duke Ellington don't look like Dr. Khaled, do
No,
he? He was light skinned.
you gotta give Duke his props.
I mean, he wrote more songs than anybody, and
More than
those
anybody.
beats. Oh man,
Still discovering Duke. Still discovering
man.
Duke. Come on.
You know, so I'm just saying, you look, you take Chubby Checker, you take whether it's Chuck Berry and all of them out of the music, and what do you have?
Yeah, you can take Chubby Checker out of there.
No, look, I'm just talking about the music. I'm not talking about the time in that space.
No,
I'm
the
just
music
talking
too. Yeah,
about-
one record, The Twist.
Yeah, but it shook the world.
That's right. That one
You
record shook the
know, it
world.
shook the world. You know, and I mean, if it comes to singing, there's only one Jackie Wilson.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know,
Lonely teardrops.
man, you know, you ain't seen singing. You listen to Jackie Wilson sing, and then you play somebody today.
Right.
And if you could isolate the beats, because you know now everything is beat driven, listen to Jackie Wilson's voice, and then see if he's got an equal. You know, listen to Nat King Cole croon, and then listen to somebody else. Oh man, it's just look, Fats Waller, he got songs going back to the 20s and 30s. When you hear them,
Barry White.
and he cooking, oh man, he made that piano tall.
Yes.
You know, Count making the piano tall too. So it's just so many.
Yes. So many.
So I'm just saying that, you know, just imagine, you know, if blacks, you know, look, I mean, you talking about swag. When you see artists today come on a stage, all the white people taking notes. And then they dress like that later. They, you know what I mean? You go to Bensonhurst and Howard Beach, them young white guys are listening to rap music. It's blaring out of their cars. You know, so in terms of style and things, but let me get to some movies real quick, because before I know it, time will be fleeting. There were a bunch of talented sisters in Waiting to Excel. A good, you know, a good mixture of very talented sisters did that. Some young girls that did what, Girls Trip. Very talented. You know, Haddish. I mean, she might be a nut, but she very talented, and you know, with so many.
I wasn't talented.
What's that?
I wasn't talented.
No, but I'm just saying they're talented. You know, Pickett. What's her name? Jada Pinkett.
Jada.
Yeah.
Jada.
Yeah.
Jada, they're very talented.
The three of them were talented.
You know, and I mean,
The least talented one first.
yeah. Well, I see your point. But in any event, you know, whether it's Diana Ross, a lady sing the blues, and which there was 1,000 other people that should have got that role over her, but if Barry Gordy is in charge of the movie, then
Right.
Diana Ross gonna get it. You know, she did The Wiz. People felt that. Stephanie Mills made it famous, the play,
That actually played that
but
first time.
she couldn't do the movie
Then,
because her name isn't Diana Rose. So, but in any event, I'm just trying to move quickly because I want to get to some key movies, and then I'm going to bring you back to Dr. Ben for a hot minute. But you know, they had talented people. Even the guy that did "I'm Gonna Get You Sucker," Townsend.
Keenan, come on.
I mean Keenan, and what's the one that Townsend did?
I'm gonna get you stuck. Hollywood Shuffle.
Oh, now.
Hollywood Shuffle.
That's the flip. Hollywood Shuffle.
Hollywood Shuffle.
Man, I could watch
Hollywood
that
Shuffle.
over and over and over.
And then you had, you know, and then you saw a serious side to him when he did the, what's the singing group? He did that?
5 Heartbeats.
The 5 Heartbeats. It started out as a comedy, but as he continued writing the script, he said, I can't do that. He said, I can't make a mockery of these black vocalists that did so much, and they unheard it. So he changed it from what was going to be a comedy to a serious movie, midstream. And so I'm saying that to say that those who were able to direct Gordon Parks, he did Shaft. He did Shaft. Ossie Davis did Cotton Come to Home. You know, they did they were directing it and did the whole thing. It's, you know, when they got that now, obviously those movies are called black exploitation movies, but you saw the talent. Similar to the way you saw the talent in the 30s and 40s, it comes through. So with those not being really the black experience, what was the message in those movies, in most of the black exploitation movies? It was a lot of drugs. Cocaine became very popular after those movies. It wasn't popular among black people before that. But the heroin was a re-explosion of heroin and an introduction to cocaine after those black exploitation movies, you know, the Mac and all that, and what's the movie that Superfly? I'm trying to remember his name. Ron O'Neal.
Now you know that's Gordon Parks' son who did Superfly. He's the one who produced and directed. That's Gordon Parks' son.
No, Gordon Parks did it. Gordon Parks did.
No, that's his son.
Oh no.
Oh, his son.
Yeah, I'm saying Gordon Parks did Shaft.
Yeah, he did Shaft.
Yeah.
But the son did Superfly.
Yeah. So you know, but let me get to some movies because you know time is gonna. We know that Spike came on the scene with you gotta have it, and it was sort of a breakthrough that a person can use a small little budget. I think he did the movie, if memory serves, something like maybe $50,000.
That's correct.
On a long
Very low
budget.
Fantastic clip. Yeah.
And was able to put together something. He shot all the scenes outside, probably with an 8mm. It was in black and white. Did Brooklyn Bridge scenes and scenes in like Prospect Park or what have you. But he was able to make it down. What's that? Fort Greene. Places like that. He, you know, got it done.
And you know the name of the first movie he ever did? Shot right there on Nostrand Avenue.
Barbershop.
Joe's Bedside Barbershop.
Yeah.
That was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So, you know, so that kind of ushered in a whole new thing. But I want to ask you about some movies. What about saying Kobe?
I mean, fantastic movie, but that last scene,
Yeah.
when I saw that, I saw him a week later, and I like, bro, I love your flick, but come on, man, you do something to that cracker at the tree. Cut his foot off, his arm, do something to him, and I didn't want to show that. I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
Oh,
What about
you showed the sister getting raped though. Come on,
Yeah,
man.
yeah. What about Rosewood?
Oh,
that was very powerful movie.
Very good. Yes, yes.
Powerful movie, a powerful real life story, but they put a white guy as the hero.
Rosewood? No, I thought it was Big Range who was like this.
Big Range and Cheadle were
Right,
heroes in the
both of
movie,
them.
but what about the white guy who was raping a little girl, a little 14, 15-year-old girl? He became the guy that got that train that got them out of it. When they were encircled by whites trying to kill them because they shot some white folks and Don Cheadle, strong role in that movie, if you remember.
And of course, Esther Roll, that was her last role
Esther
before
Roll.
she made her transition.
Yeah.
Yes.
She was strong in that movie as Big Mama, you know.
Yes, yes.
She was Big Mama in that movie, and it was good. And that's a real life story, but when you don't have the money to finance your own movies, to create your own image, you gotta watch a rapist be one of the heroes. A no good, low life racist, and a rapist. And you gotta watch the movie to understand how does this guy that was he was raping a little 14, 15-year-old girl of a cousin or a niece to like Don Cheadle in the movie.
Second
And so-
happened to crash.
So just consider that. What about Spook Who Sat by the Door? Anybody saw that?
That's my flick. Come on now. Yes.
Now that's a good movie.
That's an excellent movie.
How long did it last in the theaters?
Just like that. When it first came to the theaters, it was like out there a hot week and they pulled it.
No more than 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You're doing questions? You're doing questions?
Yeah, sort of, kind of, sort of. Because I'm just going, but a little response is fine.
Yeah, that's a book based on
But-
a book by Sam Greeley.
Yeah,
So,
and even the actor, even the principal actor in that movie, they shut him down. You didn't see him anymore. I think I saw him in one movie and he didn't even have a speaking role.
well, he was in the Posse.
Yeah, he was in a couple of movies.
Right,
with
right. Only just a few other. He didn't have
Yeah,
no long,
he didn't have no speaking, no real significant speaking role. He's like in the background after that. And that was an incredible movie.
Yeah.
The Spook Who Sat by the Door. What about Drop Squad?
Yes.
Good night there.
I like it.
Anybody saw that?
Yeah, I saw
What was that movie about?
Drop Squad was a movie, and it was a good movie.
Okay, it was good. What was it
They didn't
about?
get no success. It was about a squad that was rolling on sellouts.
There you go. That's
And
what
they
it was
had
about.
to answer,
Yes.
to the secret squad, they had to answer to a set of people if they were selling out and they was rolling on it.
It was people
Very
that
good.
took it upon themselves to change your mind, your African mind, and reorientate you when you show the inability to reorientate yourself.
They
You
reprogrammed.
know, in First World they had a saying, free your African mind.
Yeah.
Well, they would help free it for you
Right.
by jamming you with black history and music
Yes.
and just showing the problems you created by just having a business. Let's say you're in a corporation that's selling liquor, malt liquor, injurious products to the black community, and you were sitting on the board in a decision-making capacity, which this guy was. He had to get snatched. They literally would snatch you off the street at the request of like a family member or a very close friend of yours.
Right. That's
But in this particular case, it was a family. It was his sister that wanted him caught by the drop squad, and they take you to a secret location
yes.
and try to get your mind right. Spike Lee did that. It didn't last in the
produced
movies.
that. Yes. He helped.
It didn't last in the movies 2 weeks. Gone. So what are they telling us? Now, a couple of more movies. Now, like I said, Drop Squad was significant, but they don't want that type of energy in the ether. So they got to kill it. What about anybody saw the movie Stargate? It was a movie, and this was a real good movie. It's just that characters they used was all wrong. It was a movie about, it had some sci-fi, science fiction. And it was about, there was an ancient, what do you call that McDonald's thing? Arch. An arch. It was an arch, an ancient arch from Kemet that a British person found. They did some digging and found it and brought it back there, and it had the energy of a stargate where if you enter it, it takes you to where life began. This was an interesting movie. If you get a chance, please see it, because it takes you to another door, the same door. That same door will take you to a pyramid in another universe, which is where life began, and this is where life there was from here, and it was done by the god Ra. All these Kemetic symbols are in the movie. Now, ergo, this is why I brought up Dr. Ben. Because if you're talking about Kemet, you're in Dr. Ben's territory now. They actually made a movie where it was a white guy, a white nerd, who was able to interpret all the symbols. Nobody else could read it. But somehow, he mastered the kinetic language, and he could read it, and he knew Aramaic, he knew the ancient languages in that region. So he was able to do a breakthrough and connect it to these supercomputers they had in the secret location. And once it all connected, they was able to go through that portal and go to another universe where Ra was. The sun god, the god of the universe, Ra, and all kind of Kemetic symbols. And they could not picture Ra as a black man. So what's the next best thing? Dark complexion, but kind of like Arabic and black. It's like in the
Swarthy.
Yeah, say sword. Okay. So that's what Ra was, but he wasn't white. He was sort of swarthy. And then they had his children around him, and they were all similar in complexion. But they didn't look African, but they didn't look European. Sort of like the people you see on the History Channel talking about the ancient period of Khufu or ancient civilization in Kenya. They use Arabs or they'll use a British person, sort of. So Stargate was that movie. And you need to see it because if you watch it, you'll see that that's still their way of claiming that the pyramids are theirs. Because they landed in a pyramid and they used all these Africans, the falcon, the wings, all these Kemetic symbols throughout the whole movie. What about, anybody seen the movie Gods of Egypt?
Mm-hmm.
Garbage. You seen it? Garbage. Anybody else, sir? The movie, on its face value, would have been phenomenal. But they used white guys. There was only one black god. And that was, what was his name? I think it was Tahuti. And the person who played it was the same person from Black Panther.
The guy who just died?
Yeah, the one who just passed.
Let me see if we got any questions.
So, that's, and just one last movie. So that was Gods of Egypt. You need to see that because it just took Egypt from us and made it European because, like I said, it was only one black god. All the other gods were white. And just what was the messaging, the symbolism in the Green Mile? One of the few times you've seen a movie like that, the Green Mile.
The Magic Negro.
Not magic, angelic.
Okay.
Not magic, angelic. Only God's power can heal. He was able to heal people of terminal illness. Things that they had, like cancer was growing in that lady's brain. She was getting ready
But
to die.
he didn't heal his own folk, he healed white folk.
Yeah, well, you know, that's part of the
Yeah,
movie.
then they electrocuted.
But I'm just saying, they killed him, but that's very rare that an angelic being on earth and a big humble man who didn't hurt anybody and was falsely accused of killing 2 white girls. He didn't kill those little girls. It was that other guy that killed the girls. But they showed this angelic being that was going to be killed. He was in the, he was on death row. But he was able to heal people. Normally you don't get blacks in that role, and I just thought that was kind of ironic and worth taking note of, that here you got a black man, an angelic being in human form, able to do those things, and ultimately the correction officers knew that he was innocent, because a person that got that much God in him couldn't have killed those little girls. But I'll stop right there and open up the Q&A, and if you want to start with them, that's fine.
Okay, does anybody from the Zoom audience have a question? You can unmute yourself and ask a question.
Yeah, I was watching, I'm Katrina. I was watching on Facebook, Sammy Davis, Jr. He was in entertainment, like at 7 years old.
Yes.
Yeah,
He did Rufus for president. He
right.
phenomenal even at 7 years old. You're absolutely right.
Three brothers, or that was his uncles?
Hind's
And he was on a radio. He was performing with some older.
With his father and uncle.
On a radio.
Yes.
And what's those St. Nicholas brothers?
Yeah.
I was always, as a little girl, I was always fascinated by their dances.
That's all right. I'm still fascinated by it.
Yeah, me too. I'm still fascinated by their dances.
Oh,
Wow.
Yes,
Right. Do you have a question? Or you just pointing that out?
Sammy Davis Jr. Was in show business since he was 7 years old, right?
One of the greatest of all time. You're absolutely right. They got scenes of him where he danced with his uncle and his father. I think that's his father. And they were an act until he was in his early 20s. And he was the show. He was the draw. He was the show. And only when he became a solo act, but he took care of them. He made sure that they were straight the rest of their lives. But they taught him everything they knew, but everything they taught him, he took it to another level because he was destined to be probably one of the most talented guys of all time.
So you're saying that his relatives were behind him?
Yes.
Pushing him?
Yes. Similar to the way Michael Jackson's father pushed him to be the best. He was being pushed. Sammy was being pushed the same way Michael Jackson was being pushed for excellence. No tolerance for mediocrity from the father. No tolerance for mediocrity in Sammy Davis Jr. family. Nothing short of par excellence.
One more thing, the man that was dancing with Shirley Temple.
Bojangles.
You say he was in his 50s?
He was probably around that time close to 60. That's why he wasn't doing that.
Did he play with, what other movies did he play in? Was the only scene with Shirley?
Oh, no, he was in Stormy Weather. He was in a lot of other movies too.
Yeah.
But he was in Stormy Weather, and did some dancing with Lena Horne, which was, he was no longer acrobatic and athletic, but the style and grace was still there.
Okay, I want to ask you another question.
She don't
What,
have questions?
I don't really watch that much TV,
Yeah.
but if they have a channel, like I like those old movies from when they, you know, all those black stars. Do they have
Yeah.
a channel like that?
Yes, Turner Classic Movies every so often, and especially around African Heritage Month, Black History Month, they show a lot of them. But unfortunately, they show the movies sometimes 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, so you might be asleep. So scroll your television and you'll catch some of those movies. I have them because I stayed up and I taped them. So I have those movies.
And wouldn't it be a good idea if they could have like a channel that
It would be a great idea. I know the question
you
is
know, I'm
asked.
talking about a channel with all those movies
Yes.
like they used to do back in the 70s.
Okay, you're gonna have to come. You're gonna have to come to the Mackey group.
Okay.
The Mackey group will have some of those for you. Somebody will take them.
Okay, we see you. Thanks for your question. Anybody else?
Sorry, all right.
Anybody else on the Zoom has a question? Claude, Mike?
Just have a comment. She can also Google it. She can also put it in YouTube and then.
Okay.
Yes, good.
Okay, any questions from the floor?
Yeah, I got a question.
Uh-huh.
Okay, Birth of a Nation, E.W. Griffin, do you know what motivated him? I mean, other than, we know he was a racist cracker devil,
Yeah.
but there was something that actually propelled him to do that movie. Do you know what that was?
Oh, well, I've seen some of his commentary that he made. He was as much as interested in movies he was in. He was a race man. He was a white racist of the highest order, and he made it pretty clear that he was able to capture his thinking in that movie because he looked at us that way. So it wasn't that he was just trying to entertain. He was trying to set a certain standard by the perfection he used with his lens and by the images he created. There was no sorrow years later when he spoke about it by the time they had sound. So this was 15 years later when he talked about it. He really liked his work. So he did not in any way apologize to any black person about his work. He was about it. He was about it.
He read the book. He read the book called Klansman.
Yeah, that's what it's from.
Yeah, and that's what once he read it, he was like, I gotta put this on film. So okay.
It was his mission in life to capture it on film.
Yes. Okay.
That's why Woodrow Wilson said it was lightning in a bottle.
But isn't that just a way to control society, control the people?
Yeah, it's control.
White people,
Look.
to solidify them.
Just a little example along those lines. Wesley Snipes did A Great and Mighty Walk. Has everybody seen that?
No.
A Great and Mighty Walk. He did that. That gave honor to Dr. John Henry Clark.
Yes.
He honored him by giving Dr. Clark the floor on the biggest stage that Dr. Clark has ever had, where he could actually just express himself, talk about what Harlem meant to him in the old days, the glory days of Harlem, how it was an independent community where you did not have to venture out of Harlem to enjoy the fruits, of Harlem. You could get everything literally you wanted right there, and the best entertainers in the world were right there, the best writers, the best scholars, were right there in Harlem. So, the Hubert Harrisons of the world, and later Garvey, and so many others. So you lack nothing in Harlem, and that was able to come out in A Great and Mighty Walk. So when Wesley Snipes, after that movie, he started having problems in Hollywood. And then before you know it, federal charges for
Right.
tax
That's
Tax
all that
evasion.
came, put him in jail.
it's not a quantum leap
Yeah.
to say that that had something to do
Sure.
with a great and mighty war because he was financing black folks by then.
Yes.
Can you tell me, in the 60s, you had Mario Van Peebles, who they allowed
Sweet back.
to make
Melvin.
Melvin.
I mean, his son is fantastic.
Melvin
Yeah.
Van Peebles.
Yes.
Yeah.
And can you compare on how Melvin Van Peebles couldn't get a lot of this stuff put on, but a person like Tyler Perry could just come up with, they paved the way. Can you tell me
Well,
the difference?
that was a creative era. The 60s and the 70s, and Melvin Van Peebles wanted to do something, and from his vantage point, he was making, the movie Sweetback, the badass song.
badass song. Yes.
It was to
Yes.
have a black hero of a different type of image.
Sure.
It was about image,
Absolutely.
a strong black man. And what Tyler Perry has done, is to have a male that is a male playing a female part. Big Mama, which is sacred, you have to remember. Big Mama is sacred. We call it, without formal education, we call her Big Mama. In Africa, what is it called? Queen Mother. That goes back thousands and thousands of years. That's the matrilineal line. So you have a situation where there are those who are trying to normalize homosexuality. And so the biggest stars have been asked to put on a dress. I remember, like yesterday, you had what's his name?
Flip goes.
Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle was asked once by his producers to put on a dress for a scene. It's his show. And he's making millions of dollars. His producers said to him, "Oh, we got a funny scene for you. Put on a dress and do this." He examined it and said, "I agree with you, it's funny. A dress is unnecessary. I can carry that scene and make it funny without the dress." He said, "Come on, man, put on a dress." And this went upstairs, from the guy on the floor to the upstairs office. And they made it an issue that you have to put on a dress. Is it an accident that Wesley Snipes put on a dress?
Yeah, man.
All these other guys, everybody, the only one that I know that's that big that didn't put on a dress yet was Denzel. Everybody else, even though they had a scene in that movie where he was a pilot, where he was butt naked and he got shot in the butt.
That was training days. No, it was a pilot.
No, he was a pilot.
Oh, okay.
He was a pilot in this movie.
He had a dress on?
No, he didn't wear a dress. But I'm just saying, I thought that the nude scene was totally unnecessary. But in any event, he has not wore a dress. And this was during a time where everybody, one time or another, Mark Lawrence and Wesley Snipes and all these other guys who were big, put on a dress. If I just said Richard Pryor, Chris Rock, Chappelle, Murphy, Kevin Hart, Bernie Mac, Red Fox, most of them all comedians. So they became movie stars at one time or another, but they mainly comedians. But it's not an accident that this became a big issue. And to Dave Chappelle's credit, he refused to put on that dress. He said no. Most would have acquiesced. I give him the credit for saying no. I'm not putting on a dress.
All right, Claude, you got a question?
Yeah, Brother Mike, my question was, do you see any comparisons on the rise to any of those greats of yesteryear? And I say it because I met Sammy, Bill, Harry Como,
Okay.
Nipsey, all of these greats, and all of these greats had second, they not only were actors, but some of them had other talents, like writing and producing. When Spike comes along now, these actors, because of their association, had great writing skills and production skills. So do you see any comparison between those greats now?
Yeah. As I said, one person that comes to mind right away was Ossie Davis. He could write with him and Ruby D, could write with the best of them, act, funny role, dramatic role, they could do it all. So it's a throwback to days going by where guys could do everything. So now you have a lot of black people that are writing scripts now, a lot of black women. The guy, what's his name? Kroger? What's the one who did Black Panther?
Cougar, right?
Cougar. Sorry, I beat up names sometimes. Cougar was incredible. Marvel Studios, they were shooting the Avengers. They kept coming to watch Coogler do Black Panther and kept rewriting their stuff and taking stuff from him, putting it in their movie because he's light years ahead of them. So we've always had the Quincy Jones of the world, whether it's music or whether it was Miles and Bebop, Dizzy Gillespie. We've always had these types that were so far ahead of white people that it's incredible. So yeah, I'm not surprised at all that the sister from HBO that does she has her own comedy series. They asked her could she do it. She did it. It's already been now about 3 or 4 years. Issa Rae. She was Johnny on the spot. When they told her, she did a few things and they said, can you do a show? And she said, sure. She went home and wrote a pilot program. I mean, and you'd be surprised how many people in this room, you know, I mean, that's what happened with, not Ice-T, Ice-T. They asked him, could he, does he have some rap lyrics when he first started out? He didn't have any, but he told him, yeah. He said, I'll be back tomorrow with some. Which he did. He pulled it off. So I'm just saying, is the talent there like in days going by? Yes. I haven't seen a Sammy, but Gregory Hines was real close. You know, so we still got that kind of talent. Yeah, I'd say yeah, that there's some parallels, and certainly Ossie Davis was real close to Paul Robeson, you know, that kind of talent, and Denzel might not have an equal as an actor, and certainly what's his name, the one who played Black Panther, he was up and coming. Boseman?
Chad Boseman.
Boseman was up and coming. He was just phenomenal as Jackie Robinson. He played James Brown. He did Black Panther. He was doing things. So
Lawrence Fishburne.
So we got the talent. Yeah, Lawrence Fishburne, who did Othello, like the same way Paul Robeson did Othello. Yeah, we got some heavy hitters now, no doubt.
You got Mike right here. Mike, all right, thanks, Claude. Mike, unmute yourself and ask.
I didn't have a question. I was going to say, I can name a few male artists who still never wore a dress. One being Ice Cube, one being Lawrence Fishburne, and also Denzel. Those three I've never seen.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. We only have a few that can say they've gone through their entire career and never dressed up like a woman.
Yeah, and Spike Lee.
Now, okay, because can you imagine a director asking John Wayne to dress up like a woman?
No, he would've got punched in the mouth.
Oh, right on the spot.
Yeah,
And he would have been fired.
yeah.
You know, John Wayne, I mean, he got an award from President Reagan. That's why they call him to this day. There's only one actor they call the Duke to this day. And just look at the roles he had and how he was denigrating to blacks and Native Americans in all of his movies, and he's considered a hero. John Wayne.
All right, we got 5 more minutes. Anybody else want to say anything?
What do you think
Yes,
of
yes.
Hidden Colors?
Say that again?
What do you think of the series of Hidden Colors?
Hidden Colors? It's a series?
Well, it's the movies.
Oh, the movie.
Yes, the different.
Oh yeah. The movie was incredible. These stories are coming out now. I don't like what they do with it because it will not give you the full impact of how bad them sisters were. I mean, can you imagine when you can outdo a computer?
You said
No,
colors
she's,
or
that's
hidden
hidden
figures.
figures. She's talking about hidden colors. The
Tyreek.
Oh!
Nasheed series.
Tariq Nasheed.
Hidden Colors 1,
Oh,
Hidden
I thought you was
Colors 2,
talking
3,
about,
4, 5, right.
Hidden Figures. Okay, with Hidden Colors, I would say that
Basically.
it's a good thing for people who normally would not be introduced to history. There are things that you're going to see in Hidden Colors nothing's going to be new hardly to Rajim. Nothing's hardly going to be new to Dr. Lewis. But if it's informative to you, I think it's a good thing because everybody's not going to pick up a history book. Everybody's not going to look at a documentary. So if he can hook it up and talk in a certain way that draws in a certain element, more power to him. And I watched a few of them, and very, very few times do I see something that I can say, oh, wow, I didn't know that, I didn't hear about that. Now, he's brought on some people who were pretty good, you know, Dr. Kaba and others, that he's brought in on some of those things that are good, and I don't think he'll be inviting Dr. Umar Johnson or anything else, but based on some of the dialogue I've seen them have, but
Yeah, Professor
you
Smalls
know.
and them. Yeah.
But it was okay. I'm not gonna knock the hustle. It's basic. You know, you're not gonna get what you would get from a Dr. Ben or a Dr. Clark, but it's okay. I have no problem with it. It's good because he's gonna tap into an audience of people that have maybe a bachelor's and they don't want to just see a hip hop thing. They want to see something that, will educate them somewhat. So it helps them and it helps people that don't have access to that information. So it's a good thing.
But don't you think that's predominantly most of the black community that don't have access?
Sure, yeah. So that's why it's been a big hit. And he's making millions with it.
Yeah.
No, I don't like the hustle. Now,
2 more minutes, Mike.
United African Movement, if he had all those tapes to see the stuff that all the people, the Shashi McIntyres and, Dale Jones and Dr. Collins and so many others that UAM brought in.
Well, the young people
That's a
today
whole
don't
nother
have
education.
access to those that you.
Now, UAM was standing in the room, 600-700 used to
They're not
cram
search
in
it out themselves.
to the slave theater. They would cram in, but it's not like in this age of, computers and online stuff. He can touch millions of people, and he has a followership of, 40,000-50,000 at least. To read this.
164,000.
164,000? Okay, so he's got a lot of people. So he's educating them. Now when he does his own podcast and he gets into a lot of things that are totally unnecessary, but when he does things like Hidden Colors, it's informative.
It's a nice way of putting it.
It's informative.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, give yourself a big hand. I want to thank you all for coming out and supporting the Brooklyn William Mackey Jr.'s History Club this week. I want to thank my Zoom audience. Give Mike a big hand. All right, we're not lined up yet we're going to be here 2 more weeks. Also, if anybody remembers Brother Teddy Bear Emblem Paul, he made his transition. Services is going to be this Friday at Friday evening, 3:45, Malcolm X Boulevard. Lifelong member of United African Movement, First World, good brother. And then
Photographer, he used to be the photographer.
It's also going to be on Zoom, so if anybody wants to email, the password and everything, I have it. But once again, give yourself a big hand. Thank you very much.